Kicked out as a teen due to false rumors spread by my brother, years later, my parents see my success and demand money after abandoning me. I am a 28-year-old female with a twin brother. Growing up, my twin brother and I experienced vastly different treatment from our parents. For some reason, they were convinced my brother was destined for greatness, while I was labeled the black sheep, simply because I preferred sports and making friends over studying. They constantly compared us, which was demoralizing and crushed my self-esteem from a young age. As a child, I had to watch my brother enjoy extravagant birthday parties with his friends, while I was treated as an afterthought. He often had sleepovers, but I was never allowed to bring friends home. To be honest, I loathed every minute of my childhood. The only person who seemed to care about me was my grandmother. When she visited, she always brought my favorite chocolates and occasionally slipped me a few dollars to treat myself. As the years passed, the blatant favoritism toward my brother turned into emotional abuse directed at me. My parents openly mocked my grades and belittled my hobbies. No matter how hard I tried, I could never meet their expectations of being the perfect child. Although I excelled in sports, they barred me from extracurricular activities, insisting I focus solely on academics like my brother. It was frustrating, and I felt utterly helpless. In my sophomore year, I was grounded again, this time for having Snapchat on my phone. Like most teenagers, I had downloaded the app to stay connected with friends. But to my parents, this was a grave crime and a breach of trust. They flew into a rage, throwing my belongings around the room and removing the doors from my bedroom, declaring I would have no privacy under their roof. Instead of supporting me, my twin brother made things worse. The toxic environment created by our parents allowed him to exploit the situation. He began lying about me, falsely accusing me of things I never did to avoid consequences. If he stole something, he'd blame me. And my parents, already predisposed to believe the worst about me, accepted his lies without question. He even mocked me in front of my friends at school, ridiculing my appearance. Despite this, I had a wide circle of friends because I was approachable and open to making connections. My brother, however, struggled socially. As an introvert, he felt awkward around others and resented my ability to connect with people. This jealousy reached a boiling point during our 14th birthday party when none of his friends showed up. In contrast, my friends took me out for ice cream, and I had a wonderful day. This infuriated him further, and he decided to take revenge. My brother began spreading false rumors at school, portraying me as a spoiled brat who physically abused him at home. To fabricate evidence, he would punch himself, inflicting injuries like black eyes or bruised shoulders. The next day, he'd confidently display these self-inflicted wounds as proof of my supposed violence. When our parents questioned him, he lied, claiming the injuries were from playing football or other innocent activities. His lies gained traction, and soon even my friends began to look at me with suspicion. At first, I noticed subtle changes. Friends who once chatted with me in the hallways became distant. Invitations to group hangouts dwindled. It was as if a switch had been flipped, and people were hesitant to associate with the spoiled girl accused of violence. One day, I mustered the courage to ask my ex-best friend why things had changed. She revealed the detailed lies my brother had spread, accusing me of things I had never done. I was shocked, a mix of disbelief and betrayal. The ground beneath me seemed to give way. My own brother, someone I had grown up with, was spreading malicious lies about me. It was a betrayal that cut deep, leaving me with a knot in my stomach and a heavy heart. I confronted my brother the next day, begging him to stop lying about me. He smirked and told me I deserved to rot alone. His words left me speechless. His lies and behavior were starting to scare me. I wanted to talk to our parents, but I was afraid they would believe him over me. The isolation stung, especially because I had always been open to making friends. It felt like my brother's jealousy-fueled lies were tearing down the connections I had built over the years. Teachers, too, began to catch wind of the rumors. It was a surreal experience, as if I were living in a parallel reality where my true self was overshadowed by the malicious story spun by my own twin. The lies had grown beyond mere teenage gossip. They were now shaping how people truly perceived me. The nasty rumors quickly reached the principal's ears, and then my worst nightmare came true. The principal called me, my brother, and our parents into his office to discuss the allegations. I sat there, heart pounding, as the principal demanded the truth. I hoped my brother would finally come clean, but instead, he doubled down on the lies. He straight up told the principal that the rumors were true, painting me as a bully who beat him up when our parents weren't around. I couldn't believe it. Shock washed over me as my brother spun this twisted story about how I was angry at him for receiving more love from our parents. It was all a bunch of lies, but he stuck to his story like glue. My mum began to cry, holding on to my brother as if he were some kind of hero. My dad comforted him, calling him brave for speaking up and promising to protect him. I tried to defend myself, pleading with the principal that it was all made up. I felt like I was drowning in a sea of accusations, desperately trying to swim to the surface, but my brother kept at it, insisting I was an angry, violent person who took out my frustrations on him daily. My mum's tears kept flowing as she gave me accusing looks. It was like fighting against a wall of belief in my brother's fabricated story. The principal reprimanded me sternly, saying the school didn't tolerate bullying and that these were grounds for suspension. I pleaded with him not to suspend me, but he shook his head, saying he couldn't let it slide. Tears streamed down my face as I begged him to reconsider, insisting I had done nothing to my brother. The principal firmly told me I would be suspended for 10 days as an example to others. It hit me hard, and I cried even more, practically begging for mercy. My parents, angry and embarrassed, dragged me out of the office. I didn't want to leave. I wanted to plead my case and make them understand. But they were having none of it. When we got home, things took a drastic turn. My dad started packing up my stuff out of the blue. I was shocked, confused, and had no idea what was happening. My mum asked him what he was doing, but he shouted that he couldn't let me live in the same house as my brother anymore. I cried, practically on my knees, pleading with my brother to tell the truth. But he stayed cold and unmoved. My dad continued packing my things and then threw the suitcase into the foyer. I clung to his legs, begging him not to throw me out. It felt like a nightmare unfolding. He told me a bully like me didn't deserve to live in his house and that he would ask my grandmother to pick me up if she wanted to. It felt like the world had crumbled beneath me. I stood there in shock, surrounded by my belongings, kicked out of my own home. Eventually, my grandmother arrived. She gathered my things, helped me into her car, and made sure I was buckled in before marching to my parents' front door. She rang the doorbell, and when my dad answered, she yelled at him for treating me this way. With stern determination, she warned him that if he ever approached or tried to contact me again, she wouldn't hesitate to involve the police or CPS. What he had done to a child like me could land him in jail. My mom tried to deflect blame, saying it was my fault, but my grandmother wasn't having it. She stood her ground, defending me and emphasizing that I was just a child who didn't deserve such heartless treatment. For the first time, I felt the power of my grandmother's love. She didn't cower to my parents, and unlike them, she trusted me. We drove away, leaving behind the only home I had ever known. I can't begin to describe the pain I felt during that time. I remember crying in bed and refusing to eat, no matter how much my grandmother urged me to. I told her what my brother had done, and she was shocked. She assured me she believed my side of the story, and I was grateful to have at least one person who had my back. Hello everyone. To keep this video going, I need your help. We've noticed that the channel is losing traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and helps us continue bringing you great stories. So, if you enjoy our content, take a moment to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Your support makes a huge difference. All right, let's keep going. When the 10-day suspension ended, the thought of returning to school felt like stepping back into a lion's den. As I walked through the familiar hallways, the faces of my classmates spoke volumes. Judgment, whispers, and sidelong glances. The weight of false accusations lingered in the air. an invisible burden I couldn't shake. Meanwhile, my brother blatantly ignored me, acting as though I didn't exist. He had befriended those who believed his side of the story, painting himself as the victim of my supposed attacks. No matter how hard I tried to explain my side, my words fell on deaf ears. I was an outcast, branded with an unjust label that clung to me like a shadow wherever I went. Classrooms, the cafeteria, the corridors. The eyes that met mine were filled with disdain and mistrust. I became a loner, keeping my head down, attending classes, eating lunch alone, and heading straight home afterward. I had no friends, and it felt like no one wanted me there. Throughout it all, my parents never checked in on me. Only my grandmother reminded me that this wasn't my fault, and that life would eventually get better. I graduated high school with good grades, looking forward to college, where I hoped for a fresh start. College was the first time I truly experienced freedom. No one watched over my shoulder, compared my grades, or competed with me. I met like-minded individuals and formed genuine friendships. Despite the emotional and physical scars from my family and peers, I focused on moving forward and making the most of my college experience. During this time, I discovered my knack for content writing. I had always dreamed of being a writer, but doubted its sustainability. To earn some extra money, I started freelancing, signing up on various platforms, and securing jobs from prominent clients. Slowly, I built a portfolio of my work. Throughout college, I maintained this side hustle, never asking my parents for a penny. After graduating, instead of pursuing a corporate job, I realized I could turn content writing into a full-time career. I was doing well, thanks to multiple clients and long-term professional relationships that kept me involved in various projects. Freelancing not only made me financially independent, but also allowed me to travel the world as a digital nomad. Traveling became a form of healing, helping me move past my painful history. I saved diligently and took a chance on myself, exploring new places and cultures. Over the years, I've seen so much of the world, yet there's still so much left to explore. The only person I considered family during this time was my grandmother. I adored her, and though she was sad when I moved out, she understood my need for independence. Despite my hectic schedule, I made it a point to visit her on weekends. We'd share meals, sit on the porch, and talk about everything from childhood memories to recent events. I'd help her with household chores or accompany her to the local park for walks. Recently, I completed one of the most significant projects of my career. While I can't name the brand, I was fortunate to write blogs and product descriptions for them. After the project, I asked the team to leave positive reviews on my website, which they gladly did. I shared screenshots of their feedback on Instagram, knowing this collaboration was a big deal. As expected, other content writers reached out to congratulate me, and some even reposted my story to spread the word. This led to messages from strangers seeking help with their websites. Even my relatives noticed and reached out to congratulate me. Then my college principal contacted me. He had seen my success and invited me to speak at a seminar about building a career in content writing. Nervous about public speaking, I decided to take the chance. Standing before eager students, sharing my experiences and insights, I felt my life had come full circle. I spoke about my struggles, hard work, and perseverance, and it was incredibly fulfilling to empower others and contribute to the writing community. Clips of my speech went viral on Facebook groups, resonating with many. It felt good to finally be recognized for my efforts. Last week, I was invited to speak on a local news channel. The show focused on the benefits of content writing, and they asked me to share my journey and insights with their viewers. I was a bit nervous, but also excited for the opportunity. During the show, I discussed my experiences, the importance of client reviews, and how a simple appreciation post could open doors to incredible opportunities. The chance to reach a broader audience and inspire others in the field was both humbling and exhilarating. When the episode aired, I shared clips on Instagram, proud of the milestone. This was how my relatives and cousins discovered how well I was doing in my career. Since my parents never spoke about me to anyone, they had no idea I was working with popular brands or appearing on TV. Word quickly spread within the family. I assume the TV interview eventually reached my parents because a few days later, while working on a project with my phone on silent, I noticed 6 missed calls from my mum. I was shocked to see her name on my screen. It had been years since she last called me. After all that silence, I couldn't understand why she was reaching out. Hesitantly, I called her back, and she answered immediately. I asked if everything was okay, and she began congratulating me. My dad, likely sitting beside her, joined the conversation, asking about my life and well-being. I answered their questions without much thought, but things took a turn when they started probing about my income. I told them it was none of their business, but my dad insisted that, as family, I shouldn't hesitate to share. I replied that I was doing well financially, and that's when my mum began lamenting how hard their life had become. Here's how the conversation unfolded. Mum, we're retired now, and we've been wanting to renovate the house for a while. It's not in the best shape, but we have no savings left. Your success has given us hope. After watching your TV interview, we thought maybe you could help by paying for the renovations. Dad, after all, we're family. You shouldn't hesitate to share some of your earnings with us. We could really use your help. Me, are you joking? Why are you asking me for money when you haven't spoken to me in years? I don't know what made you reach out, but while I appreciate the congratulations, I'm not going to help you. Hearing this, my mom accused me of being selfish and insisted I support them as family. My dad added that, as my parents, they deserved to be looked after, and that helping them was the least I could do. I was furious and wanted to give them a piece of my mind. But then an idea struck me. Instead of arguing, I decided to teach them a lesson, ensuring they could never take advantage of me again. I told them I'd help, but only if they agreed to my demand. My dad, curious, asked what it was. Without hesitation, I laid it out. If they wanted my help, they had to publicly admit, in front of family and friends, that my brother was the mastermind behind the hurtful rumors that had ruined my reputation. I wanted them to humiliate him the way they had humiliated me by believing his lies. I wanted them to take accountability for their actions and acknowledge the pain they'd caused. Hearing my condition, my dad questioned the necessity of such an admission, and my mom argued that a private discussion would suffice. But I held my ground. This was non-negotiable, a prerequisite for any future assistance. As the tension escalated, my dad raised his voice, asserting his role as my father and emphasizing my duty to help family in need. My mum, in a last-ditch effort, urged me to do the right thing and help them, reminding me of the years they'd spent raising me. I couldn't help but laugh at the irony. I reminded them that they had kicked me out and that it was my grandmother who had raised me, not them. They grew more agitated, but I stood firm. If they wanted to re-establish contact and seek my financial help, the truth had to be acknowledged publicly, and my brother had to face consequences for his actions. Since that conversation, my parents have been calling incessantly, but I've been ignoring them. I'm starting to regret even calling them back that day. I can't help but wonder, would I really be in the wrong if I didn't help my parents at all? Hello everyone. To keep this video going, I need your help. We've noticed that the channel is losing traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and helps us continue bringing you great stories. So, if you enjoy our content, take a moment to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Your support makes a huge difference. Alright, let's keep going. Update 1. It's been a whirlwind of a week since I last shared my story, and the support and encouragement I've received from everyone has been overwhelming. It's heartening to know I'm not alone during this time. I'm glad most agree that I shouldn't engage with my parents or consider helping them after everything they put me through. The condition I gave them was intentionally impossible. I knew they'd never fulfill it. They love my brother too much, and even if they've realized his lies by now, they'd never subject him to the same humiliation they inflicted on me. Today, my brother sent me a nasty text after my parents tried contacting me again, and I refused to answer. This is what he wrote. Hey sis, it's been a long time since I saw you, and I can tell you that every day without you in my life has been great. I heard Mom and Dad reached out to you, and you gave them a crazy ultimatum. They're never going to go through with it, you know that, right? They clearly never loved you and will never do anything to hurt me. I admit I lied about you 15 years ago, but it's been a long time since then. Stop being so selfish and try to move on from the past. You're unmarried and childless anyway, so why don't you help them out by paying for their repairs and renovations? Do the right thing and be a better daughter. Reading his message felt like a stab to the chest. His audacity to dismiss my struggles and the conditions I set spoke volumes about his lack of empathy. His attempt to guilt-trip me by emphasizing my unmarried and childless status added another layer of insensitivity. His insinuation that I should prioritize their needs over my well-being was not only offensive, but also highlighted how little he thought of me. Fueled by frustration and a strong desire for justice, I decided it was time to take matters into my own hands and reveal the truth that had been hidden for too long. I sat down to write an email to my parents and close relatives, detailing the painful experiences of my childhood and the unfair treatment I endured growing up in that house. In the email, I described the strict, oppressive environment under my parents' roof and how they treated me compared to my twin brother. I also recounted the malicious, completely untrue rumor my brother spread about me in school, which led to severe consequences and tarnished my reputation. I wrote about how my parents kicked me out, and if it hadn't been for my grandmother, I might have ended up on the streets. Towards the end, I asked everyone to read a message my brother had sent me, attaching a screenshot where he admitted to lying about me. It was a clear confession, and I hoped it would finally expose the lies that had persisted for far too long. I sent the email an hour ago, and I know all hell will break loose once my parents and brother read it. I'll update you next on how my family reacts. Update 2. It's been a month since my last update, and a lot has happened. As you can imagine, my family erupted after receiving the email. My parents faced criticism from relatives who were previously unaware of the extent of their favoritism and emotional abuse. Many family members reached out to me, apologizing for not being there for me and expressing shock at what they'd learned. My brother and parents, however, responded with a barrage of abusive and increasingly violent text messages. Fed up, I decided to consult a lawyer who sent them a cease and desist notice. The letter warned them to stop contacting me or face legal consequences. This seemed to scare them straight as they stopped reaching out. My grandmother believes I did the right thing by revealing the truth and supports me 100%. She's the only person who truly matters to me, and I'm grateful to have her in my corner. Update 3. It's been 2 months since my last update, and I'm happy to report that everything in my life is going well. For now. Professionally, my content writing business is flourishing. Invitations to speak at seminars and podcasts continue to roll in, solidifying my position as a respected figure in my field. I'm as close to my grandmother as ever. Recently, I took a 1-week break from work to spend quality time with her. She's gotten into gardening and taught me a lot about the various flowers and herbs in her garden. The moments we've shared, whether over meals, heartfelt conversations, or simply enjoying each other's company, are my most cherished memories. On the family front, there's been no contact since the lawyer's letter, and I'm relieved they're staying away. Personally, I've started therapy to work on healing from the past. I'm hopeful this will help me move forward. I think this will be the last update for now. Thank you to everyone who has supported me through this journey. Your kindness has meant the world to me.